had a really brutal year of picks and bets and predictions. It's my worst in a long time. The parity in college football took over me more than it's gotten the best of anybody else. So I, with a heavy heart, bring to you my picks and bets of this week. And I want to point out something for people that criticize the SEC. My philosophy is I have to do the spread and the over-under for every SEC and top 25 game this year in a week. Excuse me. For the idea that the SEC schedules aren't tougher than everybody else, more often than not, the SEC's had the least amount of imbalance in their scheduling, and it's still been pretty bad because there have been way more top 25 games in the SEC than in other conferences. As a matter of fact, my whole SEC and top 25 standard has very often involved me just picking SEC games, and more often than not, all the top 25 games in a week are within the SEC. This week, once again, has me picking all SEC games except one game in the Big 12 because the scheduling imbalance has just been so insane. The Big 10, despite playing one extra conference game, has been worse with its scheduling imbalance this year than the SEC. I don't think that was by design. That's just how it worked out. So you can't really criticize the SEC and their lack of scheduling. That's just a fact. I mean, that's just how it's been. All right. So we got, because of all the SEC teams playing this week and that one I named, we've got 11 games that we have to pick, and then I'm going to give you my best bets of the week, my locks, and as a matter of fact, none of those are SEC or top 25 games. So we're going to have a little fun, and maybe I'll throw in a few rivalry games. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, I'm not picking Michigan, Ohio State. I'm not doing the spread on that one. Michigan's playing better. I think Ohio State's going to win, but I think that one could be tough. I say avoid that as much as possible. But some other games to get to. All right, so let's get to our picks and bets for the SEC. Once again, this is brought to you by, our picks and bets are going to be brought to you by the UPS Store, Hardin Valley, helping small businesses and individuals, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated. The UPS Store at 10629 Hardin Valley Road. Let's get rolling with our picks and bets for our last look. Mississippi State at Ole Miss, the Egg Bowl. I'm taking Mississippi State plus 26. And I'm taking the over 61.5. As bad as Mississippi State is, I think their offense has been coming together recently. Their defense is still atrocious, but Jackson Dart's confidence is shook. He threw 2 interceptions at the end of last week, and I don't see Ole Miss as a team that is mentally ready to be able to play this game. I think that everything about them was being a team of mercenaries to go to the college football playoff. They thought they had proven themselves by beating Georgia, and then they collapsed against Florida. They can't handle success. The culture of mercenaries that Lane Kiffin facilitated, that he can relate to, that helps them play well at certain times, is going to have them play poorly in this game. I think they're going to win, but I think Mississippi State's going to cover on Friday in the Egg Bowl. So Mississippi State covers a 26-point spread, even though it's at Ole Miss. It being a rivalry game also affects that. All right, Georgia Tech. I'm sorry, guys, but Georgia's going to cover the 19.5-point spread. You can play the rivalry game all day, but they're at home. Again, I'm going to take the over 53.5 because I think Carson Beck's going to go off. The reason being is Georgia Tech is not a team they're going to sleep on. Georgia Tech is 7-4, and Georgia knows what's at stake here. They know hosting a playoff game is at stake. They're not going to take this one lightly as the last game of the year. Maybe they will looking ahead to the SEC title, but the only reason I think they won't is I don't think they care to be in the SEC title. That's just my thoughts about it. So I think Georgia actually blows out Georgia Tech, and they may hit the over themselves. Tennessee at Vanderbilt. Tennessee is going to cover the 10.5-point spread at Vanderbilt, and the game's going to hit the over because Dylan Sampson is going to run down the throat of that awful defense. More importantly, Diego Pavia is way too banged up. Vanderbilt's way too hurt, so Tennessee's going to destroy them, their offense, Tennessee's defense is. This is not the same Vanderbilt team that upset Alabama earlier in the year. And it's also worth noting that it's not really going to be a home game for Vanderbilt. As I pointed out to you, Tennessee fans are scooping up those tickets, and that's why the prices are going through the roof. So Vanderbilt and Nashville is going to be maybe a 50-50 split if Vandy fans care that much for the game. But I think Tennessee will have a friendly crowd. They're going to cover the spread because of it. Vanderbilt's too banged up. So Tennessee covers, and the game hits the over with their offense. Clemson and South Carolina. This is a game for two teams on the outside, just barely looking in for the college football playoff. I would say South Carolina could cover because Clemson could be focused on other games that might help them, but South Carolina is going to be doing the same thing. So because of that, I think Clemson's going to cover this one, take Clemson minus 2.5 and take the over 49. Kentucky and Louisville. Kentucky's playing Louisville at home. They're 4-7. I thought they quit on the season, but I think they would take a lot of pride despite quitting on the season. I thought they'd take a lot of pride in playing Louisville for the Governor's Cup, and I think they will. So I say take Kentucky plus 4.5. I think this game actually might be close. I don't know if they'll win, but take them 4.5 and take the over 48.5. I know I'm kind of leaning the over here, actually. We're going to see what happens there. Alabama and Auburn. Alabama has a outside shot at the college football playoff. They're playing Auburn at home, so they're not going to sleep on this one. They're going to win. They're going to cover the 11.5 point spread. The game's going to hit the under because Auburn, the book is out on Jalen Milroe and how bad he is, but Auburn's offense is just bad, period. I don't care about last week. So I think in general, the game's going to hit the under 52.5. I know people are going to talk about how Auburn always gives Alabama a scare. Typically, that's down at Jordan-Hare Stadium, guys. That's not in Tuscaloosa. And with so much to play for, I think Alabama's going to win pretty significantly. Missouri and Arkansas. Look, not a fan of Eli Drinkwitz. Not a fan of the goofball actions he does. But I think his players respond well to it. And because of that, I think they're going to cover the 3-point spread against the Arkansas team that is just relaxed and happy that they got bowl eligible by beating Louisiana Tech. So I don't think Arkansas is putting the pressure on themselves that they need to this week. So they're going to look a little ugly. They'll make this a slugfest. The game will hit the under 54.5, but I think Missouri is going to cover the 3-point spread. All right, Florida State and Florida. Florida is a significantly better team. They're 6-5. They're thrilled about beating LSU. They should win this game to go 7-5. DJ Lagway back in makes him look like a Heisman contender, but Florida State's defense has not been the problem this year. Their offense has been the problem. I think Florida State's defense could keep this game close playing at home. Also, Florida's got a hangover by just a thrilling tale of unlikely reaching a bowl game under Billy Napier, which saves his job. Those distractions could lead to Florida State covering. So Florida State plus 15. I think Florida wins, but I'm seeing along the lines of like 21-14. So Florida wins, but take Florida State plus 15 and the under 46. All right, two more. Big 12 matchup. We're going to do a Big 12 matchup and a once Big 12 matchup that's now an SEC matchup. So the current Big 12 matchup, Kansas State and Iowa State. Kansas State, I say take them plus 2.5 at Iowa State. It's been a period of upsets in the Big 12, and this is something that if they do this, and nobody can complain about Alabama being where they're at, but I think Kansas State might cover their 2.5 point spread against Iowa State because I think Iowa State is going to be focused on a lot of other things happening in that moment, and Iowa State is spending too much time, one of those 2-loss teams that could be spending too much time jockeying about where they belong. So I actually think Kansas State is also just a little bit better. So I say take Kansas State plus 2.5. I don't say take them outright because it's at Iowa State, but I am saying take Kansas State plus 2.5. And I think it's going to hit the over 51. One of those typical night game Big 12 scoring games. And a former Big 12 matchup that's now an SEC matchup. Texas A&M and Texas. Texas is a 5.5 point favorite. Texas A&M just lost to Auburn focusing on this game. They're not going to let this one slip away. They want to beat Texas badly. It's a rekindled rivalry. Texas A&M bolted the Big 12 because of the special treatment for Texas. They're mad that Texas followed them to the SEC in the first place. They bolted 13 years ago. Now Texas has followed them. Texas A&M is going to try to get revenge. They're playing this game at home. They're capable of giving them a fight. Texas has some issues at quarterback. So take the under 48.5. And yes, take Texas A&M plus 5.5. But I'm hedging. I don't know if Texas A&M wins outright. But that's a game worth watching Saturday night. Before we get to our best bets, I want to point out that our last look is brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn.
To visit cctis.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at cctis.com. Simply the best.
All right, our best bets. I told you guys I'm staying away from Michigan, Ohio State. There's too much going there, but there's a lot of other fun ones to get to. So let's start with Washington and Oregon. Oregon is clinched the Big Ten title game. They now get to face a Washington team that knocked them out of the playoff by beating them twice last year. They just squeaked by to beat Wisconsin 2 Saturdays ago, 16-13. Coming off a bye, the game at Alton Stadium, I think the way Washington makes this a physical game, I think take the under 50.5. I do. I think take the under 50.5. I think Washington and Oregon will be in a slugfest. That's my best under of the week. My over of the week is, believe it or not, Notre Dame USC. Notre Dame at USC. I think USC playing at home. I think the Lincoln Riley offense figuring some things out. I think I think the over-under is just a little bit too low on this because I think it'll be a close game, so they'll be going back and forth. I think Notre Dame, gun to my head, I think Notre Dame probably will win like 31-24, but I definitely think take the over in this. I think 51.5 is too low. All right. Best cover of the week. Indiana. They're going to cover the 28.5 point spread against Purdue. Purdue is awful. Indiana's on a mission to prove that they belong. They are thrilled that they're still in the college football playoff race after that loss. So Kurt Cignetti's team is going to be excited, and they're going to take it out on a horrible Purdue team. So I think Indiana covers that insanely large 28.5 point spread. Yes, take Indiana minus 28.5. I'm not lying. My underdog of the week, not to win, but to cover the spread, is Memphis plus 14 at Tulane. We're forgetting this, but Memphis is playing for as much of a college football playoff spot as Tulane is. And so if Memphis does end up winning this game, guys, that game is to go play for they're not going to go play for the American Athletic Conference title. Tulane and Army are already doing that. But there is a little bit more for them to play for in this scenario. If they beat Tulane, and then Tulane and Army play each other, and Army loses another game, which is very possible, you can see Memphis try to jockey for that spot, that group of 5 spot, without even being a conference champion, especially if UNLV loses. Although I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, aren't I? Now that I think about it, you have to be a top 5 conference champion. I apologize. Correction. I stand corrected. I still think Memphis covers plus 14. I still take Memphis plus 14 on this at Tulane. I think that's giving Ryan Silverfield something to play for. They'd love to wreck Tulane's chances. So Memphis plus 14 at Tulane, and Tulane's thinking ahead to the AAC title game. So that's still my plus of the week. That's still my underdog plus of the week. What's my super dog of the week, though? Arizona State is now the top Big 12 team, and nobody in the Big 12 seems to want to get that spot. I got Arizona beating Arizona State, guys. Arizona State is 8.5 point favorites. Arizona is 4-7 on the year. Arizona State's 9-2, but Arizona's at home. And I actually think that Arizona is going to shock Arizona State to win this weekend. It's what they'd love nothing more than to ruin Arizona State's chances at playing in the college football playoff. That's what they're going all in on, whereas Arizona State has to focus on this, plus the Big 12 title game, plus hope that they stay in a certain seeding spot. So, yeah, no, I got Arizona upsetting Arizona State. That's my super dog of the week.